Donald and Douglas, the Scottish twin engines, didn't mind what job they had. Coaches or trucks, it was all the same to them, which meant, as often as not, that they were put in charge of trucks, since the big engines all disliked them intensely. "You don't really like them, do you?" James asked in amazement one day. "Och, it's all work," remarked Douglas. "If we didn't do it, some other buddy would." James marvelled at this. He hated trucks himself, but he was willing to admit that Donald and Douglas managed to keep them in order much better than anyone else did, barring Edward. The secret, of course, was that the trucks hadn't forgotten that memorable incident when Douglas had smashed a spiteful brake van. It had been accidental, really, but no one had told the trucks that, and they still believed that Douglas had done it deliberately. "Keep on the right side of those two," they would say to each other whenever either of the twins was about. One day, Donald had to take empty trucks to the other railway and bring back loaded ones. Empties behaved well, and when Donald reached the big station on the mainland, he was feeling good. "We've got those trucks licked into shape," he congratulated himself. What he didn't realise was that the loaded ones he was about to take back were visitors and had never been licked into shape by anybody. "What's this?" they screeched as Donald backed down towards them. "We want a proper engine, not an old-fashioned steam kettle!" They should, to tell the truth, have known better, but then trucks hardly ever do, and that's not surprising. "Old-fashioned?" snorted Donald, who took offence more easily than his brother. "I'll teach you a lesson. Take that!" and he gave the trucks a fierce shove. The trucks sniggered. "He's getting uptight," they whispered. "Let's have a little fun." They behaved surprisingly well for a while, and Donald started to think he had them under control. Like the trucks, he ought to have known better. By the time they reached the workstation, for instance, an axle box had run hot on one of the trucks, and they had to shunt that one off the train. At the next station, the guard had to get out and fasten a brake rod which had slipped on accidentally on purpose, as the old saying goes. One delay followed another, and Donald gradually became crosser and crosser. "Stupid things!" he scolded, but the trucks didn't care a bit. "What does he know about it?" they asked each other. "Let's face it, we're modern. We're not out of date like his sort. Steam kettle!" Little did they foresee, the change was afoot. At the top of Gordon's Hill, several miles further on, Donald stopped so that the wagon brakes could be checked along the train. Unfortunately, they were running so far behind schedule by this point that he restarted much faster than he'd intended, and the resultant jerk broke an old coupling hook, 10 trucks from the end. Feeling the snatch, Donald's fireman looked back. They were already a little way down the hill by this point, but, coming after them, and gradually gathering speed on the slope, he saw the last 10 trucks and the brake van. "We've got to keep ahead of him, Donald," he said at once. "Quickly now! I just hope there's nothing at the platform at Edward Station." "But we're supposed to stop there and leave some of these trucks anyway," objected Donald. "Can I help that?" replied the driver. "If those scunners you call trucks catch us, they'll stop even earlier than that, because they'll knock us off the rails. "Well, what do we want it for, then?" asked Donald, and hastily accelerated to full speed. It was touch and go to start with. If the guard's handbrake in the van hadn't been restraining the breakaway slightly, Donald couldn't have kept ahead. But he managed it. Just! They saw Edward's station in front. Whistling at full volume, Donald raced towards it, while the trucks followed him, screaming with fright. Quickly, the signalman sized up the situation. He set the line ahead to clear as far as he could, and Donald clattered safely past. Then came the trucks, but the signalman saw, to his relief, that they were slowing down by the time they reached his box. With a groan of relief, they stopped, just beyond the station platform. The signalman sent out an obstruction danger warning and set all of his signals to danger. Then he waited. When he was sure that the trucks had come to a standstill, Donald stopped too, half a mile further on. "We shall need permission to go back," the driver told the fireman. "Nip back and clear it with the signalman, please." When he had permission, Donald was able to go carefully back towards the trucks. He bumped them fiercely as soon as he got there. "Now will you behave yourselves?" he growled. And this time the trucks had scared even themselves. Yes, we will. Not to worry," they quavered uncertainly. "You bet on it." And in this way, Donald managed to finish the rest of his journey without any more trouble at all.